The special bond that develops between plus-size inflatable robot Baymax and prodigy hero Hamada, who team up with a group of friends to form a band of high-tech heroes.
Welcome to the Walt Vault with
Michelle,
Andre,
Louise,
and me, Emily. We're a family-friendly podcast where we pick a new Disney movie each week. We watch it, share our thoughts, and then relate it to pop culture, fandoms, and anything else that pops into our heads. Enjoy!
hello and welcome to the Walt Vault, episode 59.
Let it go.
Oh.
No, Danny, no. Let it go. Careful the black animal.
Oh my god.
I had no idea what that was. I thought you were saying something about a bad head or something.
Adele Dazeem, you sound so good.
What? You're insane. All right, this week
Oh, right.
This week,
we watched Frozen.
Yes.
That
Let it
movie
go.
that everybody knows that we don't have to explain to you, right?
2013. Oh, this one came out before Big Hero 6.
Okay, so we lied on the last
Definitely-
Yes,
episode.
we
messed up.
lied.
Anyway.
2013.
2013's 3D animated Disney film, Frozen. This was a big one.
A movie based off Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale about a ice witch.
Yes, the Snow Queen.
The Snow Queen, thank you. I was like, it's an ice witch. The Snow Queen, yes. So, let's do first impressions, make it quick. Do first impression when you saw it in the theater and first impression upon this viewing. Because we all know that we have watched this movie multiple times and it gets overplayed, so we all have that same feeling of like, oh, Frozen. But is it good? Yes. So, Andre, first impression about the theater.
First impression, I saw this with the Walt Vault #1 fan, Mary Angela. We went to the theater to see this, and I think we were both just like blown away. It was awesome.
I remember when Andre saw this, and I'll explain that in a second.
Oh, okay, yeah, but I remember being like amazed by this movie. I was like, this was really good. It was really funny. All the songs were fantastic. And I had a good time watching a princess movie, which I did with Tangled as well, but nowhere near on the level of Frozen.
I agree. When I saw this in the theater, I thought, oh my goodness, this is so different. I've never seen a princess movie like this, let alone with two princesses in the same movie, you know?
Which I think that is what really sets it apart for most people.
Yeah.
Because now you have two different archetypes that you can
We really wanted Broadway music on this, which, ooh, I loved.
And choral, too.
And, oh god, this movie, when I saw it in the theater, I thought, I've never seen a princess movie like this in my life. Like, they weren't like my favorite princesses all of a sudden, but it was the top movie, the top soundtrack for me for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Emily.
I think I told this story before, but Luis and I were dating when this movie came out, and we went to go watch it in the theater. It was sold out. We didn't have time to get a later movie time, and so Luis was like, hey, there's another movie on the screen. Why don't we just go watch 12 Years a Slave? And so, if you've never seen that movie,
Basically the same movie.
not a Disney movie. So
Not at all.
I was in the mood to watch Frozen because I was excited.
Right.
I thought it looked really cool, and he was really happy because I don't think he really wanted to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go in and watch 12 Years a Slave, and I didn't. That's the first movie and only movie I've ever walked out of.
Oh, did you?
Because it was so graphic and so emotionally heart-stirring that I could not watch
Too much. Especially when you're in a Disney movie.
But then did you finally go
So
see
then-
Frozen in the theater?
No.
Oh,
I never saw it in the theater.
I'm sorry.
But you want to know what's funny? It's because I was scarred. I was so afraid that I was going to go back and watch 12 Years a Slave again. Okay? Here's the funny thing, though, is that, so I said, Luis and I were dating, and I lived in Ceres, where Mary Angela and Andre lived at the time.
Yes.
And Luis lived in Livingston. And I remember specifically, don't ask me what we were doing, but for some reason,
We were driving.
we all were in the car to go to Luis's house to pick him up to go somewhere.
Yes. And we were
We were
talking.
going to the Christmas parade, which was last night.
Oh,
That's where we
whoa.
were going. Because it was Christmas
You
time.
been to that?
Yes, I do remember this.
Yes. Because, so we drive to Livingston, the three of us, we get there, and they are losing their minds. Andre and Michelle.
About Frozen.
Mary Angela. They're so
Because we had just seen it.
You have to listen to
You
this
have
song.
to go
It's
see it.
inspirational.
We played the music for you before you saw the movie. We're-
That sounds like something they would
We're
do.
dumb.
Played the music in the car Angela's having a cow, like she already knows the whole song.
Of
And
course.
she's just like singing, and the first time you hear something with no context,
Right.
You're like, cool.
I mean, it's cool.
Sure, this is an okay song.
And here's the deal, Idina Menzel has been my number one
Yes.
since high school. Like, I literally had shirts made that said, I wish I was Idina. Okay? Not even joking to you. So, I was super excited.
Yeah.
But I wasn't that excited, and they were losing their damn mind.
Yeah.
You're like, you're ruining it for me.
They
We're
tried
going a
to
little
play
wild.
it for Luis, and Luis was like, so we're going
Why
to this
did we do
Christmas
that?
parade. Yeah, he was not about it. But anywho,
He was
I just
like,
remember
right.
how on top of the world they were about
Yes.
it, and I didn't get to see it for months
That's
until I got a bootlegged copy. I'm not
Right.
supposed to
Okay,
say
you
that,
know
but I got a
what?
bootlegged
You have
copy.
issues with seeing movies in the theater, miss. You really do.
It's a
But
good
here's the
experience.
deal. Do you want to know the truth?
Mm.
I've seen this movie. This was the third time.
Are you serious?
Third total. So
You know how
when-
many times I've seen this movie?
You know
A
what?
god-awful
I don't think
amount
I've
of
seen it
times.
that many times either. I think this was probably either my third or fourth time
Maybe
seeing it.
number 30. You know why? Because I have a younger sister who, when a new Disney movie comes out, gets very obsessed with it. You want to know what I heard for 5 years straight?
Can't imagine.
Frozen, every day Frozen, playing the soundtrack at dinner time, Frozen, singing it through the house, Frozen, in the shower, Frozen, Michelle, let's go get some ice cream in the car, Frozen.
Yogurt.
Everything was
That's-
Frozen. So then when it started getting in the parks and everything like this, and I was like, if I ever hear a stinking Frozen song again in my life, I'm going to lose it, which unfortunately kind of ruins the movie for me,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So now I've had time to settle down from all that. Like, it's very much still such a hype. Like, I remember going to Disneyland, and kids were only dressed like Anna and Elsa. I was like, where's the kids dressed like Ariel and Belle and all these other princesses? Well, those princesses didn't matter at all. There was those dolls where you could flip it upside down and push the dress down, and then it was a stuffed Elsa. And then you flipped it over and pushed the dress down, and then it was an
Which is
Anna.
hilarious.
And I
I'm
just
sorry.
remember wanting to yell at kids, like, get out your butt on the Little Mermaid ride right now.
Why?
And
It's
stop
easier for you to
thinking
get on and off.
about Anna and Elsa, like, and then the icing on top of the cake is I love World of Color. So they did the Christmas time World of Color with Neil Patrick Harris, who was the host, which was great. But no, he had to be the host with Olaf, and guess what they had to do? Not part of the Let It Go song, the entire Let It Go song from beginning to end with the movie scene and all the kids screaming it, and I was like, I'm done. That
Well,
was
and you're
Frozen,
forgetting
right?
about how they turn the entire left-hand side or right-hand side, depending on where you're looking, of the California Adventure Park into Frozen Land.
Oh.
Yeah, they did
Remember?
that. They had we did this, babe. We walked into like the
The
backstage
Hollywood
lot.
Backcon.
And
Oh,
remember,
that's
there was like
right.
the sledding, and we met
Yes.
Olaf, and we did all that, because that was when we first, that was
Marshmallow.
Yes.
Anna.
We,
Elsa.
we drew all
Oh,
out that year.
Aladdin.
Wanna
done.
wait,
Frozen. Yes.
Want to wait 8 hours to meet them in Fantasyland before they were in California Adventure? Because you could do that. You could wait 8 hours in a little tiny shop.
See,
Literally ridiculous.
I
Andre and I
wasn't-
met Anna and Elsa. We walked in because it was kind of down at that time.
That's true.
But upon this viewing, thank God, I watched the actual movie again. Not Frozen Live at the Hyperion, which I'll talk about later. But, oh, it's so good. It's very good.
So-
I still loved it. Still loved it.
That's the thing about this movie is that the whole little girls going crazy over it really pushed that Let It Go song out into the atmosphere farther away from Disney stuff than even
You know what happened to
anyone
Let It Go?
imagined.
It became All I Want for Christmas Is You. That's what
Yes.
happened.
So it's on the
It became
radio.
The Mariah Carey where I was like, no.
It was on the radio constantly, and so I heard it on the radio. I worked at John's Cuddled Pizza in the dough area, which I hated. I absolutely hated that
The
job.
dough
The
area.
dough area. I did dough.
I
I did that dough. I absolutely hated it, and then on top of that, Frozen, like they had a winter playlist or whatever, and Frozen is playing like every 45 minutes or something like that. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it
And
go.
you
And I'm
want
like,
to.
please let
You
me
know
go
what
from this
Adina
job
has
position.
to sing for the rest of her life? I love it, because sometimes when I used to have cable TV when I lived with my parents, it was always Adina on TV singing Let It Go to a bunch of children, right? Like, let it go, my children, and she's very like wickedy, and I'm like, poor Adina. Poor Adina has to
I mean,
sing that for their. She
I
got
just
Poor
Mariah
Adina,
Carey.
but this movie's gonna pay
Adina
her bills
got
for the rest of her
Mariah
life. You know what I'm
Carey.
saying?
Yeah, but that song.
I just want her to defy gravity
But
all day.
sometimes I
yeah.
can see
I
her
don't need
face
no-
when she has to sing that song again, and she's like, "Here we go, let it go."
No, she sings, here we go. Let it go.
So, unfortunately, when that happens to that degree, it makes me not like it
Yeah.
anymore.
Yes.
I don't dislike it, but it makes me not. And then there was this whole YouTube craze with that. I mean, it's crazy. What? We finish each other's sandwiches, where they would put the camera on top of the dashboard, and it was like a girl and a guy, and they would sing the whole song. It was like a
I
YouTube
didn't
craze. And then,
interact with
okay,
that.
and then every time I would get on my phone, it was another dang YouTube video of people singing that song that's not a good song. It's kind of creepy if you think about
Okay,
it.
I'm
That
really
they're
glad I
singing
didn't
that.
hear that.
Anyways,
Okay, pause.
Yes.
I know I'm going on a
I've
tangent.
never heard you talk that much.
You did a lot.
Sorry.
I've heard you talk a lot.
But yeah, but your guys saying you've only had to imagine, you know, my younger sister. I love you, Kylie, if you're listening. But you
She
know
does
her,
those things.
and when she gets to Southern England, I had to hear every. And I don't mean to. I'm literally not exaggerating. Every single day, every single day.
Well, I will tell you that I can tell you exactly the times that I've watched this. I watched the bootleg copy by myself. Well, no, I think it was right before we got married, like with my parents at home, because that's where I got the bootleg copy. Then, I take the bootleg copy with me. I get married, literally within 2-3 months.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, Luis, this movie was really good. Let's watch it. He watches it. He doesn't even finish it. And
'Cause
he's
he
like,
hates it.
I hate it.
Right.
I hate everything about it. And it was one of those, like, usually if he says he doesn't like something, I can, like, get us to kind of watch it again or whatever.
Sure.
He just liked it so much for whatever reason that
He blames it on Olaf, but it
I
has
just
to
don't
be
like-
something more than that.
I literally don't think I've ever seen it again. And so with him being like,
That's very
he
interesting.
really unlikes it, dislikes it, and then the same craze thing, like hearing this
Hearing
craze
the
about
song
it,
over and
May have
over.
hated even more.
well, it made me like, eh.
Yeah.
And so I've seen it at the Hyperion, which I enjoyed. I've seen it in the
Yes.
parks, which is cool. But I've never rewatched it because I've just been like, eh. And then I watched it here and was like, first impression, heck good.
Yes.
It's so good.
Heck
And
of it.
that's the thing that even bugs me. It's like, I want to hate it, right? Because of the craze, just because it got so hyped up. But
It's good.
it's amazing. But it also has to be one of those things where maybe I need to watch Frozen once a year. Like, I don't need to hear about it 24. I don't
I
even
don't
watch
need to-
The Little Mermaid more than once
I don't
a
need
year.
to watch
You
it
know
that
what I mean?
much,
Like,
honestly.
I have it memorized anyway, so I don't need to.
Like being so far removed from its original release and the craze has died down slightly, you know.
Not even a fair amount.
Right, not even a fair amount, just slightly. But I don't hear the song, you know, every 45 minutes
Yeah.
anymore.
I'm gonna come to your house and like just.
Oh my
I
God.
know
Start-
exactly
start
what you're
blasting
talking
it.
about though, because I worked at JCPenney and all music's like on a CD loop. So if
Mhm.
you're in an 8-hour shift, that means you heard that song at least 8 or 9 times. So it
Oh,
really sucks.
boy.
I'm
Crazy.
like,
Every-
I know
every
exactly
day.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, so being removed from those kinds of situations and not having heard the songs in a while and not having seen the movie in even longer, rewatching it this time was like almost like watching it all over again for the first time. It was like, wow, yay, this
It's
movie's
so
great.
good, huh? I will say that Let It Go got me through some hard times. Thanks, Adina.
Did it?
Yeah. When I was like dating
Stop.
husband, when I was dating mediocre men and they would dump me, I
Yeah.
would listen to Let It
Men
Go.
who aren't me.
Cold never bothered me anyway in my
Cold.
crime.
The
Goodness,
cold.
Just so you know.
never
The
bothered.
cold hearts never bothered me anyway. Okay.
Do.
So let me get to my number one gripe, and then we can move along.
Yes, scraps.
Okay.
Okay, my gripe with this movie is that it tries right at the beginning. It doesn't try. It does, I think, very well right at the beginning to set a cultural tone for this movie
Yes.
with the northern.
I said
No, that song. The one he's singing. Okay, stop.
I
I can't believe you know the words.
Stop it.
said 30 times at least, right?
Okay, so that song is very culturally accurate to the area in which we're assuming
That it
this
takes place. Mhm.
And they do all that.
Stop.
Sorry.
And then it goes into the ice mining song,
Yes.
which is also very cultural.
Sure.
Okay? Then we move on, and every bit of that culture that we just
Established.
established is gone.
Yeah. It's just
That's
like,
my number one gripe with this movie.
hey, we're in a monarchy now.
I know that this is like is kind of stupid as a gripe, but like for you to take that kind of musical prowess
Mhm.
and put that much emphasis on something, I felt like it was
I liked it.
it was beautiful. I loved it. I just wanted more of that kind of Celtic. not even Celtic. I know that that's not
Nordic.
Nordic, but Nordic feel throughout the entire movie.
The only time that I ever even like think about it again
Yoo-hoo.
in the movie is this dude who is like a cartoony yodeling
Oaken's trading post.
Oaken's trading post dude, like
Summer
summer blowout.
But okay, and this is, have you guys, no, we talked about this. You have seen, you haven't. How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
Okay, so How to Train Your Dragon is in a ish area of the world. And they infuse, it's not so much just accents, it's just like the way that they infuse the culture into the movie. Think about Brave, Merida.
Yeah. Scottish. These dudes are Vikings the entire
Yes, like, I'm not saying that they have to be like over the top, everyone has an accent, but like, I feel like they established something really cool and then they just forgot about it because now we're Broadway.
Right, yeah.
They went from one
I
to
kind of
the
felt
other.
it again when they did the choir, like when they were like
At the
dubbing
convocation.
her.
Or
Yeah.
the,
But I
coronation.
do know what you're talking about.
that's my only gripe.
Yeah, it's just that it kind
But
of
I do like their recurring
Yes.
theme of
Pretty
the
early.
swirlies all over their outfits and then the
Oh, yes.
structures and the swirlies.
Sure, yeah, and
What kind of Swiss?
Anna's dress is a little
It did go a little Swiss.
lederhosen, you know, just ever so slightly.
Lederhosen.
Lederhosen.
From Norway. Anyways, yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
So anywho, that's my gripe. And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, not that big.
Not bad.
not that big of a deal.
I just thought I would share it because I was like, dang, I forgot this song.
I don't
Right.
have a gripe, but Andre and I were discussing this, and I think this would be, I mean, we're not going to go through the movie with you listeners. You know it whether you like it or not. But
You've seen it 30 times.
Yeah, I think a great discussion that I even was kind of having with Andre. This sounds bad. We're not going to play Who Had It Worse, but yeah, we're going to play Who Had It Worse. Like, whose situation was worse, Anna's or Elsa's? Because in my mind, Elsa's situation was way worse. I know that this movie almost seems, I more get the perspective thrown at me of Anna because we see Anna go through it a lot. But then when the songs come in with Elsa, it's so powerful, right?
So
let's
stop
set it
there.
up a little bit.
Let's set it up. So Elsa is born with magical
Powers.
winter powers.
Yes.
She has
Ice powers.
Yes.
We call it that.
So she does everything that has to do with ice. And as kids, they're very, very close.
Yep.
And they're like BFFs, and
They're
play.
building snowmans.
They're building snowman. And long story short, Elsa hits Anna with her powers, and the trolls have to
Remove
wipe
all
the
memories.
memories.
Right.
Yeah, they basically obliviated her.
Because Anna gets hit in the head, and they're saying if they wipe her memories, it won't damage her brain as much. If she doesn't think about magic or doesn't know about magic, then she'll be okay.
Yeah. So,
Which makes sense, honestly.
so from that point on, you now have Elsa.
Elsa.
Love it. Anna and Elsa as two separate individuals. They're no longer
And
friends.
in this-
They're no longer
Right.
really
And this
sisters.
is kind of where the difference starts to me. Yes, Anna, you have it bad. Your older sister doesn't want to interact with you nor talk to you, so now you don't have anybody to play with.
Also, there's nobody in the castle.
But I think Elsa, from that standpoint, I don't know. I just feel
Well, hold
her.
on. Here's the tipping point is that troll dude, whatever his name is, Grandpappy, he says, fear is your number one enemy.
Right.
Keep your love, keep the fun, keep the friends.
That's why he left the fun memories.
Right? Fear is the problem. And their parents are the stupidest parents.
Daddy-o over
I
here.
can't
Friggin' Tarzan's
stand
parents
Jeez. He legitimately
says close the gates, we'll shut
closes
her out.
the gates,
Yeah.
makes his children
Be separate from
Conceal,
each other.
don't
Separate.
feel, don't let it show. Like she's literally chanting that.
he's teaching her to be a recluse.
He put her in the closet, basically.
Yep.
You know? And she
And
just
You
has
just put her in the corner. You put her in
But
the
she's
closet.
literally telling her conceal, don't feel, don't let it show, which is like, oh, poor child. I just think she has it so much worse. And she can't even confide in her younger sister, who would be like a good outlet for her to like talk. Oh, Dad doesn't want me to use my powers, and blah blah
Not
blah.
even like the
Freaking
staff.
nuts.
She literally sits in her room.
all
And so-
day.
All day.
For
all the time.
years.
And I get that the "Do you want to build a snowman" song is sad from Anna's standpoint. We're supposed to feel bad for her because her sister is ignoring her. But I'm sorry, I feel way worse for Anna. Thank you.
Elsa.
For Elsa.
Elsa, sorry. Yes, I feel for her. Like that's so hard.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, the parents die. Okay, and so now she can't. She's still, and I think she's probably a
she has
teenager,
internalized
right?
this
So,
conceal don't feel at this point.
And her parents are dead, so of course
So
she's
she still
gonna
refuses
do
to
the
come out of that
last
room.
thing that like she was taught to do by her parents. You know, she's gonna go through with it and try to be strong for her younger sister who doesn't even know what she's doing. Poor Elsa.
Yeah, she just thinks that hermit.
Yeah. So that's why when the transition of Elsa being this like so nervous, so scared, so whatever into the Let It Go song to me is so powerful because I'm like, oh, I literally always yell at the screen a bad word. I'm like, get it, like you know what you're doing. You throw that cave. Oh yeah, like I love it.
My hair.
Oh yeah.
It's so interesting.
And her hips swing when she walks. She's like, Oh my god.
It's powerful. It's very empowering that particular song. But the whole concept of her being in her room, closed off from the entire world and the people closest to her for forever,
years and years,
for as long as she can imagine.
Well, think about it. She was probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And coronation 18.
Well, her parents died, and then it was 3 years later, and then she had her coronation. But yeah,
so she was probably like 16
or 15. Something like that when the parents died. Yeah.
So she's been in her room for like 10 years.
10 years. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Anna's been like running around talking to the pictures on the wall.
Yeah, she's at least got to like
Joe.
Right, exactly.
Gets a little
they could have split into 2 different wings of that castle after the parents died at the very least. She didn't have to.
Yeah, she could have been like, don't go into the West Wing.
She could have been the beast. That's true.
Yeah, but originally what they were going to do with this, and based on the Ice Queen, fairy tale, was that Elsa's supposed to be a villain.
Yes.
Right.
So they didn't go with that in this aspect. I mean, they did because they were convincing people that she was villainous and a monster, But I'm kind of happy they didn't do that on this one because, I mean, if I have to choose between Anna and Elsa, I will choose Elsa any day. Like, I love Elsa. Like, she's so wonderful.
Well, and it's funny, too, because I think, like we talked about, I think what makes this movie set apart in the like, oh my God, it's so revolutionary. In some ways, when people say, like, oh, it's the first strong woman movie, no, that's not true. Y'all need to back up. But
Pocahontas been here all day.
Oh yeah. Anywho, but it is to me revolutionary in the way that there are 2 female characters that are both equally strong in different ways, completely different personalities, and trying to do similar things in different ways, but they're also geared for different types of people.
Right.
And Elsa, I think adults like Elsa better because they understand, and we can have these conversations. Yeah. Kids aren't like thinking, they think probably Elsa's mean. They're probably like, her sister didn't like her, and it has nothing to do with liking her.
Right.
And Anna is just lovable, so of course you love her, but as an
Anna's kind of annoying to me sometimes. So
I love Anna a lot.
But as an adult woman, you look at her and you think like, I understand where she's coming from, but she doesn't understand the bigger picture.
No,
right,
exactly. But it's also not her fault. Nobody explained it to her. Come on, parents. But I mean, I get that they can't. I just feel like there would have been a better way to go about this. Come on, parents.
The parents are the problem. 900%.
Oh,
exactly.
for sure.
Stupid.
Another problem, and I told Andre this, the problem of being cooped up for let's assume 10 years of your childhood is the first man you meet you're gonna fall in love with. True. That's just a given. So when that whole thing happened with Hans of the Southern Isles, I don't even blame her. Like,
no.
What's his last name?
She's of the Southern Isles. Like, she's literally had no social interaction. I'm just gonna say Hans is in his 20s. We'll say that. At least semi near her age, somebody, not just workers in a castle. People that she can actually interact with. He seems nice. They sing a love song, which is absolutely ridiculous. I remember being in the theater.
I thought it was so cute.
It's very cute, but I remember being in the theater and being like, something's fishy about this. Like, the way that it ended, I was like, this is fishy. Because I didn't know where they were going with it. Were they going to go with you can't marry someone you just met, which they did, or were they going to, actually get married? I didn't know. So it was kind of like, Disney.
And it was so
They've gotten a lot of beef lately for that, too.
But I think they made fun of themselves, too.
Yes, they did.
He was the first guy she met. He was good looking.
They sang a song together.
They sang a song.
They fell in love. And get married. Which is usually what happens.
Within 3 minutes, we're like, Want to get married?
Right.
But that's the thing is that does happen in the other movies, but that takes the whole movie to get there, so it doesn't feel
But this is at the
as a
start
short
of the
amount
movie,
of time.
you know.
But this was just like, here you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? It's okay.
That's exactly
so
what
we're
happened to
doing
Sleeping
that.
Beauty and
So that didn't
Snow
help.
White too, I think.
And then she did the whole little sister thing, like, Elsa, come on.
But I just love how Elsa's like, excuse me?
No one's getting
You
married.
cannot
No one's
marry
getting married.
someone you don't
No one's moving in.
Yeah.
Even
Definitely.
his 12 brothers didn't come visit. No.
Girl, please.
Yes.
I don't even
So-
like you in the house, okay?
Let's talk about let's touch on another funny, important character right off the bat before we get deeper into it, because like it or not, the Duke of Weaselton actually like plays a role in this movie. He's so weird. So he ends up being kind of the villain.
He's actually like a main antagonist in a
Yeah.
non-antagonist, like in
He's
a
like needed.
minor way.
It's
Like
interesting.
his people are needed. So
Upon
he,
rewatching this, I was thinking like, oh yeah, he's the main villain of this story, and I gotta watch out for him. But like,
Oh, you thought that at first?
that's what I was thinking upon rewatching, you know. But
They make you think that.
yeah, a little bit. But you know, going throughout the course of the movie, he's kind of just like looking out for everybody and making sure that an evil queen isn't about to take over.
No, he's just trying to get his trading. He's not looking out for anybody. He just wants to trade.
Well, yeah, that too. But I mean, overall, in terms of like villainous stuff, he sees that an evil ice witch has created an eternal winter, and he sends a couple of goons to take her out. So I mean, it's evil or it's bad, but I don't know that it's necessarily evil. And you know, he's trying to be a good guy, which a lot of villains think that they are doing. But his isn't the most evil thing that I've ever seen. Hans, on the other hand, ooh, that
Yeah, but I didn't know it until the end of the
He
movie.
was so convincing right until the
God,
end.
Exactly,
and
yeah, to the end, that's what I'm
I
saying.
really, really paid attention to his
So
facial
did I.
expressions this time. I was like, I'm gonna see it. But even in their love song, I was like,
Nah,
he's
man.
smiling, he's looking at her
Right,
lovingly.
there's, like, no hint.
There was
compassionate to the people in
thing.
Arendelle.
Yeah.
He's
Literally-
helping
Get these
them.
people some soup, some broth. or
literally
whatever.
a stab to the heart when he's like about to kiss her. And it's like, oh,
If only there was someone who
no,
loved
loved you. That's literally like one of the most evil lines in a Disney movie. I was like,
You see Andre's face because it's the exact same thing I did. Like,
I remember seeing it.
I recluse, like my back arched, my shoulders went up, and I was like, oh!
Honestly,
no.
this movie gets very dark, like it does. But on
It's
a
real icy.
Yeah.
it's icy. On a happier note, reindeers are better than people, and I freaking love Sven. He's a cute little reindeer.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Kristoff yet.
Well, Kristoff too, but I love Sven.
They're the same. You mean
I wish Kristoff
Yeah,
would have
Sven is
sang
Sven.
more because I liked his little reindeers are better than people. I thought that was really cute.
And don't you think
That's right. Those people are joy, choo-choo. Yeah, so he's just like an orphan, basically, that has made friends with a reindeer, and he sells ice for a living, and that's why he goes to Yoo-Hoo Bakes him a blowout to get some stuff to go up the North Mountain.
I think I wrote my
Hilarious.
notes like I literally have never thought about having to
That's on.
cut out and sell ice ever in my life before watching this movie. I was like, oh, people had to take ice to places and sell it to people.
Yeah, that was like a legit business.
I'm sure.
kind of sucky in Eternal Winter.
Yeah, not
definitely.
not too good.
I like
No,
how
no thanks, sir. I'm good.
Hogan's like, supply and demand, sorry.
That's right.
So,
It's not even his fault. He's like calling him a crook. I'm like, dude, he's screwed too. So, you know. But it's okay. Anna tries to befriend him. She basically is like, you will take me to the North Mountain. And they go eventually. I mean, I don't think Kristoff really wants to. My favorite is when she like puts her feet on the sleigh. He's like, this is fresh lacquer. What are you doing?
What are you, raising a barn?
He's like, actually, a castle. And he's like, sure. Like, a castle. Still so funny though. But
and the only reason he really decides to help her, even though Sven, quote unquote, helps him decide, nah, you want to go, she's
Exactly.
cute.
Mhm.
But
no, for sure.
he only decides to go because
He can't leave her.
she says that she knows how to stop the eternal winter, so
Right.
that's going to help him
Help
with
his
his
business.
mission.
Yeah, true.
So he's going to go up there and help her get there. And, ooh, what a fun ride they have. It's actually quite adventurous.
Yeah.
And I forget about
It's
this
very adventurous. So after they beat these wolves, they finally meet Olaf. It's like the cutest thing ever. And I want to say that the animation during that scene, because there's like crystals. I think they're like long trees, like willow trees
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah,
And there's
and
like
they have, like,
ice
ice
crystals
formed
like
around.
off them.
So
It's like
pretty.
so
Which is really
pretty.
cool.
But it's a perfect spot to meet Olaf. And I'm happy Louise is asleep because I love Olaf.
You guys, that whole scene is hecka funny. How he's just talking and you don't see it.
Right,
He's like,
he's not there
"Hi,
first.
guys."
And you're like,
And he's just like so pure because he just comes up. He's like, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs.
When
He
he
reminds
walks
me of
up-
Doug
when
from
he yes,
Yeah.
when he walks up and I'm like, where's his nose?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Why does he have no nose?
And they're creeped out. They're like, oh, get the body.
I love that they're creeped out by him.
Right,
This
because
would be creepy.
it is very creepy.
Yes.
Kristoff is literally like, what is that?
So funny.
He's like, I'm a snowman. Don't you remember you built me? And then she does. But I like how he just immediately is like, what you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're going to go up the North Mountain, try to make it summer again. And he's like, oh, summer? Like, he just has a whole personality now, which really extends on, I guess we'll talk about that later, it really extends on Elsa's powers.
Sure.
But he sings and the In Summer song, which is, you know where he goes, put me in summer and I'll be a happy snowman. I've never seen my dad giggle so hard. Anyway, if you guys know my dad, he giggles, but when he watches movies, he has a very serious face because he's like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like that's just how my dad is. So he literally was like, like so loud in the movie theater, and I was like, wow, Olaf is the thing that made my dad laugh.
I wrote in my notes that Olaf is like Frosty the Snowman's like dumb existential little brother. Like he's like this being that has come to life, and he's just so wowed and wondered by everything that's happening.
Life is not, I want to hold on to dreams.
He just has so much hope for life that it's extremely
My
naive.
favorite part of the song is the ending where he like puts his hand. It's totally Broadway, right? He like puts his hand up to the sky, and he's like gazing. Sky will be blue. I'm like ridiculous.
And
you guys will be there
too.
And I'm the most brilliant
The best. Are you gonna tell him or should I?
Don't you dare.
I'm gonna tell him.
No, I'm gonna tell him. Like this is.
I can't let
Because
this
they're
go
already,
on.
and I try to imagine they're already freaked out that they've seen a live snowman, and then they just freaking start singing a song about summer. They're like, what's going on? But I love him, and then he's just in their troop now automatically. He's like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
go, you guys. And I love Olaf so much. Luis is insane.
Well, and what's really
He's so
funny,
cute.
I was waiting the whole movie for him to say something where I was like gonna roll my eyes.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
because I'm waiting for him to be as annoying as Luis was like
Louis
convincing me.
feels.
And really, it was all actually really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I've been impaled.
I think it's because
Watch out for my butt.
it was like dry. It wasn't really. I mean, obviously it was
Yeah.
intentionally comedic,
Sure.
but it wasn't like jokes.
But
Wasn't
this
like
is
dry.
all his
It doesn't
true
even
feelings.
Yes.
Watch
He's
out for
speaking
my
his truth.
But the impaled thing, I was like.
Or when he's on it in Kristoff's feet, he's like, I can't feel my legs. I don't know. I
Oh, and
think
he
he's so
jumps
cute.
on Marshmallow and he's like, this isn't really doing anything.
Or even too when he's like, oh, Kristoff's coming, and he's looking through the ice and he's like, well, guess he doesn't love you. It's fucking ridiculous.
No, the best one.
Uh,
You can knock.
knock,
Why are you knocking?
knock.
Did she forget how
Does
to
she know how to? Or even when he does it again with the running, he's like, because I love you, I need you to run. He's like, hi, Kristoff's family, why aren't you running? Run on that.
Which is funny because I feel like that's kind of my sense of humor sometimes. Like, I do those
Right.
sorts of things and I think, like, does Luis hate when I do that?
I
Because
don't know.
I've done that before, like,
I think he hates the voice because Josh Gad has a very, very particular voice that's absolutely perfect for this character.
oh.
Like Josh
I don't
Gad.
have a skull.
Josh Gad.
Bones.
Oh my god. Josh Gad is Olaf to me. Like I've seen him in other things, but like he won't just like freaking Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. Like Josh Gad is Olaf.
The
Yeah,
only
so-
time that I've seen him in something where I don't agree with you, but because I don't
Mhm.
believe that, is he did a very good job, and we talked about it as LeFou.
LeFou.
Oh, yes.
Live action.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
like,
think it's
he's
because,
done great jobs in everything I've seen him in. It's just so iconic.
oh, for sure, because that voice now is embedded in your head.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Oh, he was perfect. for
totally
LeFou.
sidestepping here, but
Yes.
it's the exact same thing with like the Detective Pikachu movie that's coming
Yes,
out, and we
which
talked
has
about
Come on,
this.
Ryan
Ryan
Reynolds.
Reynolds as Pikachu.
He's Deadpool now to
he's
me.
Deadpool.
Yeah, he
Like,
just
there's
sounds
no
like
other
Deadpool.
voice he can be.
Yeah.
It's
And
so
not a
that's
good
how-
voice for Pikachu.
No.
No, I love Josh Gad. He's wonderful. So is freaking. I love it. I guess we skipped the whole Let It Go song, but you guys know how it goes, and it's epic. So let's talk about Elsa's powers. They obviously get a lot stronger considering she almost has this thing from Big Hero 6, like we talked about, where like she can think it and she can
Yes.
project it,
That's
right?
exactly what I was thinking
Yes.
with the microbot.
So she's making the stairs. She literally makes an ice castle, but then she takes it to a whole new level because
She starts making sentient beings.
yes, like
out of
she can
ice.
literally just like poofs her hands and makes. I keep calling him Marshmallow. Is that the name?
Marshmallow.
I was calling him Snowball. Sorry, it's Marshmallow. Yes.
Same thing.
So that's like really intense powers. And didn't you say there's an X-Men character
So,
that has ice powers?
Yes, so Iceman in the X-Men.
Wait, she made Olaf too.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So,
she didn't realize she did that. But
so I always, if anyone has ice powers, Iceman is my favorite ice-powered character in comics. But Elsa is so much more unbelievably powerful than Iceman. It's kind of crazy. Like, and at one point in the beginning of the movie, when she first hurts Anna, her dad pulls a book off of the wall, and it's got like all this Nordic writing in it, which like led me down a little rabbit hole where I'm like convinced that she is like part frost giant from like Sparkletime or whatever, the same planet that like Loki comes from.
oh my god.
And I say that because she has like godly powers.
Oh, she's
she can create
extremely
an eternal
powerful.
winter. She can create sentient beings. She can create an entire ice castle just
can
like
kill you.
barely thinking about it. She's just
Easily.
like, boom, there it
Yeah, and
is.
she's like standing on a platform and it's literally growing
Yes.
underneath her and it's building around her.
Right. She's
That's
not
why
even
when she
moving her
does that
hands
whole
anymore,
like,
you know?
and she builds it, and she like struts after like,
It's just
Moving her
happening.
hands less than the dude in the Big Hero 6
Exactly.
nice.
Yeah.
Elsa.
So she is like very near like a god tier
Dude, she's
superpower.
cooler than
She could
Dumbledore.
be. You know, you're right because if we're gonna get into like Nordic mythology or something like that, she's definitely like a descendant of like a creature,
She's
mythological
like a
creature or
entity.
something. You know, like a demigod. So that's really cool. I just think her powers are absolutely insane. And then I just have to say that
So is she more powerful than Maui? He's a demigod from Moana.
Let's see here. What do you do? The palm
He
trees.
turned into stuff.
he can build things too, but he can transfigure himself. But his
That'd be a-
power,
that'd be a good
his power, a lot of it comes through his hook. So
His
I'm gonna
hook.
say yeah, she's stronger.
Yeah.
It's like her.
Truth.
Right.
Done. Boom. That
Also-
was a mini battle.
Shoot, what was I gonna
Mini
say?
battle.
Wait, I could go on for the songs forever. Y'all know them. We know they're amazing.
Well, we can talk about the
There's
songs a
two
little bit.
specific songs that I will probably talk about because if you know me, I'm obsessed with reprisals from anything. A Broadway show, a movie. Any stinking reprisal or key change gets me every time. I don't know why. That's like so choir like. I tell Audrey all the time, I'll be listening to a song and then a key change. I'm like, oh, key change! And I get so excited. Like a key
And it's
change.
hilarious because I'm sure like half the people who listen to this are like, I have no idea what that
No, but
means.
it's a key change.
When it happens, you
No,
know it.
no,
You just don't
you
know
feel
when
it in
follow
your
Yes.
soul, in your bones. So a key change and a reprisal gets me every time, and this movie has one of the best stinking reprisals ever, where they're in the ice castle singing a reprisal. It's so
For
good.
first time in forever.
Okay, thank you. I needed
Yes.
to. I needed
No,
to.
I'm such a fool, I can be free. Okay,
Oh,
idea.
yeah.
No escape from the storm inside of me.
So
I can't control the colors. It's so good.
I
Ooh, I
really-
got chills just singing it.
I really liked
Because
both.
she's for the first time, like the other cutie, Anna is for the first time in forever, and she's trying to
She's
be
Yes.
like,
hopeful.
don't
Yes.
panic. You're safe here. No, you're not, girl.
So I always love Idina Menzel's performance in this movie, but I was also really surprised by Kristen Bell's singing ability.
Girl
She's
can
great,
sing,
and you know I've
yeah.
seen her in a bunch of like comedic stuff.
She's a
Where
comedian,
she's
yeah.
where she's hilarious, but I didn't know that she had any kind of singing background or anything like that. So I was really impressed with her singing in this movie.
Super
Well, and it's
impressed.
funny because I wonder if, and I don't want to rehash this conversation, but I wonder if she is as good as she sounds.
Sure.
Because we have the whole conversation about Emma Watson
Yes.
as Belle. And the reason that we can say Emma Watson had some issues
Because I could hear it though.
well, no, you could hear the auto-tune, you're right. But we knew what we were listening for.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because we are so attuned to her
I'm
music.
gonna
knew all of
give
those songs. That's very
Kristen
true.
Bell the benefit of the doubt and say that she is, because sometimes when you're singing, okay, for example, I have a very high pitched voice, so like I can sing along with Anna, like I'm a soprano. But I find that my voice, like when I was in choirs or in musicals and things like that, sounded much better when I could sing a character that was like almost talky, like ha ha ha.
Yeah.
So Anna very much has that where you can sing it in a way that's
It's a
talking,
sing
but
song.
it can sound cute and it sounds
Yes.
fine. Versus Elsa is very like, oh, you know, like
And she has the deep.
it's a different
Yes.
kind of singing. So like even like I'm gonna be popular, like I used to sing that all the time because they have that weird voice for it where I can kind of sing it in that way and it sounds fine.
Characterized as
Yes, thank you.
I'm looking into Kristen
So
Bell's.
I think she did a wonderful job at that.
I'm
She
looking at-
very has that Anna voice.
looking into Kristen Bell's career, and she did do Broadway
Veronica
theater.
Mars.
Yeah,
Right.
she's Veronica Mars. But she was on Broadway in The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I think she did Hair, and then
Hair.
and then a couple of other theater productions. So
Okay,
I
so she
believe
has-
that.
So she's background.
Yes.
So you go, girl. But there's people that have that kind of, you know what I'm talking about, that like high pitched voice where like that kind of not ditzy, but
Yeah.
that kind of character voice works, and I think they did a great job of casting her, and Idina as well. Like, I mean, who else can sing that reprisal like that? Get it, girl.
Get it.
Get it, girl.
My other favorite song is the Troll one, but we'll get into that one.
I mean,
I guess it's kind of getting soon actually because she strikes her with her powers right then.
right, yeah. I like
Dracola.
there's a lot of songs in this movie. There are 9 songs with lyrics that are sung throughout the course of this movie, which is a lot,
Yeah.
for a 2-hour movie or whatever. But
And there's also a lot of dialogue.
there's a lot of dialogue and there's a lot of interstitial
Songs
stuff.
that move you forward and dialogue like Let It Go.
But I don't think I have any major problems with any of these
No.
songs other than like that first Frozen Heart song where they're like singing about ice and stuff like that, which I do
you don't like
appreciate
it?
for
I like
the cultural influences and stuff, but listening to it or singing it is not my
No.
favorite thing.
Well, in the movie it works.
Sure, yeah.
I'm not gonna
No, but I'm not
listen
gonna
to
like
it.
listen to it. for
Right,
fun.
yeah, but
No.
listening to it for fun
But I
is
still really like
that's
it.
a
so
skippable
I'm gonna disagree.
track.
The troll one, I could live without.
Yeah, and that's the one that people usually can
Yeah.
live without. But for some reason, I don't know why.
I don't like the characters.
Oh.
The trolls.
No.
They're a
Okay,
little
you
weird.
either like him or you don't, for sure. It's kind of like Shiny Dude. I don't like him.
Shiny.
From
Shiny.
Moana. The
Oh.
crab. Kamatella.
So I absolutely love the trolls. I think that is so freaking hilarious. I don't know why. Like it's a little bit out of place in the movie. Like it's kind of weird. But I think it's so funny. Every lyric in that song to me is hilarious.
The song and
Lyrics.
the lyrics are funny. I actually like it how they switch from like he's the fixer upper to she's the
She's the
fixer
fixer-upper.
So she's
upper.
a bad of a fix her
That is
up,
quite
or-
funny.
Yes.
But I don't dig the trolls.
I'm trying to see-
Like is there like a Nordic troll?
There is a
thing?
Yeah,
troll
there's
character
trolls.
in the Snow Queen story, but
Oh.
it's
Are
a
they
troll.
rolling rock trolls?
It's a troll or devil who makes an evil mirror that distorts reality and later shatters to infect people with its splinters that distort sight and freeze hearts. So very different interpretation of
I could have.
trolls.
Sorry, I couldn't kick anyone at the table. I wouldn't have minded if it was like even a family of trolls in a house
Right.
that were just like supernatural.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they just like lived like I just didn't. I don't
They're like
know.
outside and they're all rocks and
I like it.
they raised him, I guess.
I don't know.
I will
It's
say,
wrong.
I don't think the first watching, I don't think I liked it, but maybe because I latched onto it because it was different than the rest that I had to
Probably.
rewatch
Sure.
a million
Yeah.
times. But I like the trolls. I like that.
I
song.
like the way that they dress them up though. Like they're like
Right,
they wear
their marriage outfits.
You're getting married.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so sad because then the end of the movie is absolutely insane, right? Because so many curveballs are being thrown at you. Elsa gets captured by Hans and all of them, which is insane, and they lock her up.
It's funny because you still believe that
Hans is a good guy.
Hans is a good guy, so he's just like,
Putting her in
you
jail.
have to go back. I'm sorry.
Sorry about the
Girl,
chains.
we got to do what we got
You'll
to do.
just stay
So, yes.
here. We're gonna try to find your sister.
Girl, you ain't no treason, but we got to do something.
Yeah, but then,
You know?
yeah, at first he tells her that, but then it becomes very intense.
And the troll guy, the poppy
You know
troll.
what? And I
Grand
don't think
puppy.
she was planning on. Well, we later find out that he wasn't planning on killing her right away. But you know, once Anna comes back and is like, "Kiss me, hurry up, kiss me," then he's like, "Oh yay, I'm getting in real quicker, right? Like I'm gonna get into this
yeah.
kingdom a lot faster."
Actually, and I know this sounds awful, and I know that the moment was rough.
Ugh,
I know.
so good though.
I know the moment of like, oh, if someone only loved you. It kind of would have been interesting had he kissed her,
And it
then
didn't
you're
work at all.
waiting, and then he's like,
Oh.
oh.
Well, guess
You
that
know,
didn't
that
work.
would have been
Which
good too.
I get.
I bet they probably went back and forth between that
Oh,
too.
I
I'm
bet.
sure.
But I guess from an adult.
But then,
Point of
but
view,
then
that
he wouldn't
would've
have got
been
that
even more-
grin, like right when he like grins like a little bit as he
Oh,
backs
no.
up. I'm like,
Oh, gee!
it's rough, and she is
That's
so.
evil.
But that's really what we get. She's so young and innocent, and yeah, guess what? Children out there, don't trust any man, and don't fall in love with any man right away.
Don't trust
right?
any man.
Yeah, that's where
I
I
put my hand on my motherfinger, I was like, oh, no way.
That's probably where they were going with that. Hey, teach Adeline that. See, Adeline, you can't go fall in love with every man you see.
No.
So
Don't
it,
finish nobody's sandwiches. That's how you
absolutely
get
rough,
her.
but he locks her in. And then he takes it even worse. He goes to all of the representatives from the other towns and is like, she's dead.
Right,
We
yeah.
got to say our marriage vows before. I was like, you are so rude. Like,
They
literally.
all just ate it up.
And they're
Oh,
like,
no,
well,
it's so
because Anna put
tragic.
him in charge like a dum-dum. Like, come on.
Yeah.
She did. She didn't know
And
any better, but.
And if Dumb King Dad hadn't told all of like the servants and stuff to leave the castle, you know, when they were young and stuff like that, they would have had people around that could have taken care of stuff like that. But it's just Anna and Elsa. They're the ones in charge of this entire kingdom.
Yeah.
And so when both of them are disposed, I guess this new guy that just showed up here today will do.
Sounds good to me.
He can take
yeah,
care
so
of
they trust
everything.
him, right?
You know what, Andre, give him the benefit of the doubt. He came last night. Okay.
Excuse me.
It is with a
It's
heavy,
been 14 hours.
heavy heart that he sentences Queen Elsa, or charges Queen Elsa with treason and sentences her to death. So they go in and
You
kill
have
her.
seen
Man,
this movie.
yeah,
Yes.
you remember that.
It's literally ridiculous. I'm telling you guys.
It's a
So
lovely heart.
it gets intense, right? Because it's so cute because Olaf comes in and he's like, "Oh," about her all frozen, and he turns on the fire. He's like, "Ooh," and then that's where we get
This
the
is what he
famous
feels like.
Olaf line that some people are worth melting for, which is pretty cute, honestly. Like it's not even that corny. It's actually.
But maybe not right now.
So then he's like trying to be like, yeah, dude, Kristoff loves you. And then Kristoff, the storm gets really worse because Elsa escapes, and she also hears them like we're gonna get her, kill her. And so she escapes and she's trying to run
Idiots.
away.
Why would she be like, hey, Queen, we'll bring you some tea?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they're really dumb,
Like,
right?
why would you, like,
You know how powerful she is, right? So the more mad she gets, the more the storm gets like freaking raging.
maybe this will calm the storm down. Girl, I'm killing you.
Very fearful. So
Some
then
fear
I
rage
really
there.
love this because it's like the fjords are frozen over, everything is winding, Elsa's running away, Anna's trying to run to Kristoff, and Kristoff's running the opposite direction on Sven, and evil guy, what's his name? Hans is trying to go get Elsa, but they can't see anything. It's like crazy stormy. I don't know what's going on. Like,
They all just run it out into each
and they're all like
Right.
actually probably very far distances from each other because the fjords and like that lake is
It's
frozen
a
lake
huge
is
lake.
huge,
They're
right?
just walking on top
So we get it, and a lot of stuff happens, but it's like crazy intense.
of it.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Let's put it short. Let's see.
I don't know how they do it, but they all end up in some central area that is
Yes.
very close in
Yes.
proximity after they're running and running and running. and
Hans
running.
says your sister's dead, which at that point probably she should be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So she's dead, which kind of calms her down. Then he's about to kill her, and then this is the turning point where Anna's there frozen. She looks at
Well, stop.
Kristoff.
She tells him, Hans tells Elsa she's dead.
Mhm.
And it almost like stops the storm.
Yes.
It like puts it in
because she
stasis.
felt a
She-
different emotion.
She freezes.
And everything's
frozen.
like frozen in the sky though, like none of the snowflakes are falling. They're just like there, which is actually kind of really pretty
Very cool.
because it was like pausing time almost.
Yeah.
So then Anna can
So
see.
now we can all see each other.
Yeah, Anna sees Kristoff and is like Kristoff, like trying to get to a kiss to save
Try to
herself.
kiss her.
But then she sees that freaking Hans is about to stab her sister. So she goes over there. And I think that was where, like, this movie
Took a turn.
took a turn. Is like, she chose her sister, which, I mean, it was, at the time, I was like, oh, wow, like, that happened. But it could have happened in another way, really. So she saves Elsa. It's actually really sad when
But
she's
it's cool.
frozen, but she looks really beautiful.
Because they had the last time they interacted, Elsa had sent a giant snow monster after her
To almost kill.
to attack her.
No,
But I don't think
go away!
I don't think Elsa necessarily had complete control of that creature once she created it, and it went off on its
And never
own.
comes back.
Well, remember, it was just gonna. It threw them out.
Yes.
And that was it. And he was turning around.
Through
But then
the
she threw the
snowball.
snowball, and then he was like, "Oh yeah."
And
no.
Chris,
No way.
stop it, don't harass the snowman.
And then.
And then it
Then he
And
gets
then it
back.
went crazy. That's when that was the first time he actually got like mean.
right, yeah.
So it was just
He's
kind
still
of
kinda
scary
cute,
looking.
though.
Exactly. He like grew
Right.
spikes out of his back and stuff like that, which is cool.
He's still kind of cute. Yeah,
So,
so
yes,
Elsa looks pretty frozen. I
her
mean, it's kinda
saving
sad.
her going to try and save Elsa was like a bigger act than had she just done it in
Yeah.
the beginning of the movie or something like that.
It's okay. Oh, and then they come
And it's
back.
cool though because so Hans goes down to strike Elsa, and I actually really enjoyed this. The sword obliterates
Yeah,
when
it
it hits
breaks.
Anna because she had completely frozen over,
Mhm.
and it was cool because it was like dual. It was like the magic was strong enough to freeze her like
Freeze
it
her
was quote unquote
completely.
supposed to,
Yes.
but it also was strong enough to save her. So it was like
I think that they just happened simultaneously. Like, if she had waited 1 second later, she would have been dead. Because I just feel like they both happened at the same time. You know what I mean?
But it's cool
So she got
because
lucky.
Yeah.
it was like no, but it was also like oh, all right.
And like you think of
And
ice
Zelda's
as
crazy
being
strong.
fairly
But that was
fairly
some,
brittle.
That was some
You know,
fancy
if you
ice
strike
stuff.
ice with a sword, you're gonna expect it to break. So the fact that her hand broke his sword was like really cool and very striking.
It was a Mjolnir moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moment.
But it's okay. And then she finally figures out that love spells are frozen hot.
True love. True love.
We'll stop.
Oh, what?
It's okay. It's happy at the end.
So because Anna sacrificed herself, she
For her sister.
unfroze.
Mhm.
She was able to.
Therefore, they unfroze the fjords, and thank goodness they were on a boat.
She
so
was
they wouldn't sink.
literally able to show her sister. I wish that I didn't like the quote that Elsa said there. She really was just like, "Oh, love, that's what can break the spell."
Mhm.
I wish she had said something like she could have said that, but if she had been like, "He did say that fear was my number one enemy," or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
because it was like you let something control your life, so you couldn't let love in,
Right.
not just like.
Not just.
Oh,
And
love.
ideally, she should have been able to let it go when she was letting it go. You know what I mean? Because she was being less fearful at that point. She was
Mhm.
happy, but she
Right.
kind of wanted to be frozen. She kind of liked all the frozen stuff. So.
Yeah.
But she was still trying to seclude herself
Yeah,
from
she still
society.
was like
She was
away
still
from the news.
yeah.
She
So
liked it, though.
the fear was still ruling over her. She was just balling
Yeah,
out with her
that's
powers
true.
at
That's
that
true.
point.
I just wish they had said something about that because to me that was the root of the problem.
Right.
It wasn't that you didn't let love in because I can let love in, but if I'm allowing fear to rule my life,
Right.
then how?
The fear is more
Yeah,
powerful
yeah.
than the love at that point.
It was really good.
Anywho, but
I love that
it was
movie.
a cool deep
And then he
romp.
Yes.
gives Olaf his own little snow
Well,
flurry.
and before that, Anna gets to clock the crap out of Hans in the
Oh,
face.
yeah.
Oh, so
Well,
satisfying.
because Kristoff was like, "Oh, let me at him." She's like, "No, let me get him."
I kind of like how they put him in the jail. Like, let's see what his 12 big brothers have to say about
The
him.
Right.
Frenchman. I'm like, "Yeah, dude, tell him."
Exactly.
Screwed, man.
Tell
You know, you guys seen him? I don't know.
Good punch.
But, you know, that was cute. And he got his own little snow flurry, and they're all happy. And the end.
Pretty much.
Yeah, Kristoff.
Wasn't
gets
there an
his
after
shoes
credit scene with Marshmallow?
There is an after
What was he
credits
doing, though? I don't
scene.
remember.
What did I write it down? Let's see if I wrote it.
Because I don't think I had seen it before, but I forgot what he was doing.
No, all I wrote about the credits was that the credits version of Let It Go, Demi Lovato, is unbelievably inferior. Shame on you, Demi Lovato. That's what I wrote.
Not good. Not good at all. And guess
You-
what version my little sister wanted to listen to? That one.
Really?
The unfortunate thing is that the Demi Lovato version is more socially, I don't want to say acceptable, but socially.
They could play it on the radio.
Play it on the
It's the
radio.
pop version.
It's the pop version. it's easier to sing.
Oh yeah.
It takes out all of the emotion and honestly what makes the movie, and what makes the Idina Menzel version like spectacular, and it dumbs down the lyrics.
Right. Yeah.
Like it just
doesn't
takes
even have all
it's
the
just
best
like
parts of it.
it's like all right, let it go, let it go. Ooh, oh, ooh, like
It's not the same.
because really the best part about the song to me, if we're gonna talk Let It Go for just a second, is not it's not the chorus.
No.
It's not
No,
Let It Go.
it's not.
It's the dialogue she's having with herself.
Trills and fractals all around. That's good stuff.
And one fire crystallizes like an icy balloon.
Right here it goes down.
I'm never going back.
The
No.
past is in the past.
Almost defying gravity. I said let it go. Ooh.
I'm
There
sorry,
you
but you can't listen to the song without seeing her walk with her hips swinging.
Yeah.
Boom, boom,
Pow,
boom.
pow.
And her
Boom,
dress
and
is
I ride like a break. Oh,
I made this dress with my powers.
really good. But this is where
Sick dress, girl.
this is where my qualm comes in.
Okay.
I love the movie, but and I've said this before, it's really hard for me to listen to other versions of movies, aka Broadway's or live actions or seeing them in person, because I only have Adina's voice in my head.
Truth.
That's how the song should be sung, and that's how it is. So, although I absolutely love
And
the
pause before you say anything else.
Hmm?
I've never heard another person who can do Idina like Idina.
Right.
no one can.
You know what I mean? It's her. It's
So
like
it's
nobody
really
can do
hard.
Barbara Streisand like Barbara Streisand.
Right, exactly.
No, for sure.
No.
It's just really hard.
We're
So
doing
when
it
Like you can come in and
Yeah.
sing
When-
an okay version of the song, but it's not gonna
No.
be.
I love Frozen Live at the Hyperion. I thought I wouldn't because I was so attached to Aladdin, but it's very, very good. And if all of the technology goes great that day, you have a wonderful show.
It's gorgeous.
I really like
Anna
that stage show.
It's always fine with the voice for me because she can sound like a little girl and do her little weird kooky things, and it's fine. But it doesn't matter who is Elsa that day. I think I've seen 3 different Elsas in the times we've been there. It doesn't matter who is Elsa that day. The voice never does it for me. Like, it doesn't sound like her.
There have been some
It's
competent
not.
actresses in that show, but yeah, it's not.
It just isn't. It doesn't. It's so hard for me.
The acting does not bother me.
It's that
It's-
song. It's
it's
just
Let It
that
Go.
specific song. Like if she was just
Which-
in the rest of it, fine, sure.
And the worst part is that the way that they stage it and they block that scene.
Yeah, it's really cool. They got the
So
stairs and they're
when
moving.
they do the dress, well, you can tell.
And the
I always
chandelier
knew there
comes
was
down.
like a dress underneath because when she's in her dress before that, her shoulders are so bulky because they have it like stuffed up. So that bugs me a little bit. I'm like, come on, let's do it a little better.
But the dress
beautiful.
transformation and the way that the entire stage turns so that
Mhm.
the stairs are now up and over the audience.
Face out.
Oh, it's
yeah.
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. And the huge crystal
Chandelier
chandelier.
comes down.
Beautiful. It's very Phantom-y for me at that moment.
It's
Not
cool.
like Phantom of the Opera, like
It's amazing.
It's
I
just
just have a
seizure.
hard.
That chandelier
I
might
have a
fall.
hard time. But I even like that with Mickey and the Magical Map. I judge the heck out of Pocahontas, Mulan, and Rapunzel that day. Like, there's sometimes where I'm like, Pocahontas wasn't good that day. Like, I liked her better the other day. Like, that's
Those-
just how I am, and it's really annoying that I'm
well,
like
the
that.
worst part for me is that those are less iconic
Sure.
than Elsa.
And that's why it's hard when I
Yeah.
watch it. Like, I get nervous because I'm like, okay, I want to go watch. We haven't seen it in a while. I think we should see it next time. But when we go, I'm so excited, and then Elsa comes out, and I'm like,
I will say though, okay, let's pause. I will say though that there's one part in the Hyperion show that is better.
the Duke
Let
of
me-
Weaselton.
It's Weaselton, my favorite part of that show.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Who
No,
is
so go ahead, keep going.
Weaselton is-
far better
He is
in
far
that
more
show
funny.
than he is in this movie. I love that dude. That
Were you
So
gonna
plays.
funny.
say Kristoff because he's legit too?
No,
What were you gonna say?
it's like the added scene, or I call it the added scene,
What added
where the
scene?
parents come back out.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No. I'm gonna tell you right
I don't
now.
want it.
I didn't cry. I did not cry in the movie. I didn't. Not because
No,
I don't
I
have a
didn't
heart.
cry in the movie.
But
I
it was more sad and like, oh god.
Yeah.
But it was like they move it. They
Mhm.
move the song
They come out at the end.
at the end of.
I don't want to talk about that. It was freaking
Frozen.
ridiculous.
On stage, the parents come out, and it's supposed to be almost like their spirit.
Yeah.
kind of
Like
thing.
they're looking down on their children, like
In
they figured it
remembrance.
out.
Because they come up in like the corner, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the song that they sing? They
It's
sing one.
For the first time.
Yeah, I think they sing part of it for the first time.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what?
I'm just telling you,
I
when
can't.
they came out and I saw it for the first time, I lost it. I was like, that is it. It's
Oh, no, I do too.
It was a nice full circle.
But
Yeah.
also the Duke of Weaselton and Kristoff are
Oh,
legit.
no, for comedy, for sure. But I
And
just,
the Olaf that's in the show is really
Oh.
cool too.
Oh,
I
so
love
cute.
the
And
way
even
they
do it.
Sven is cute. And I will say, way to go, Disney, with your cultural diversity of casting in a live action show. Great job.
that's one of the first
Kristoff
times
with
I've
his
ever
little
seen that.
curly hair, so cute.
I love it.
That was one of the first times I've ever seen that. I
And
think
it
they
was
did
so
it.
everything.
I think they did it in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but we won't talk about that.
Oh sure, yeah.
But if you think about it, I can't. That's a whole different conversation. But I could see where people would
They'll have a disconnect because it doesn't look like.
No. I was gonna say I could see if like we had like an Asian Belle or like a black Ariel, people would lose their minds.
Sure.
But
I think
am I
people
saying-
might have been losing their minds when Elsa was deaf and American. They might have been. I don't know.
It's really cool
But then
actually.
that's why I really wanted that Let It Go song to be like. And I was like, let's get it. I think it's great. Honestly, and it makes the blue color of the dress pop like a lot. It's not nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
girl.
cool. Mhm.
You have that icy hair, boom, I love
Get
it.
that icy hater. Get it.
I'm just saying, I don't mind it. I think it's
Handsome, yeah.
fantastic. Plus, it gives you something else to look forward to be able to see something a little bit different. than
Yes.
what
Yeah,
you see.
exactly. I love it. We should go see it again.
Yeah, so if you've only seen the movie and you haven't seen the stage show and you happen to be going to Disneyland at any point, I would
Even
recommend.
if you don't like stage shows, like I'd recommend it.
Even if you aren't completely in love with Frozen or anything like that, it's very well, highly produced show, and it's funny and it's
yeah, they
good
make
stuff.
things more comical.
Oh, and everyone, I made Luis go watch it,
Mhm.
Like,
and he liked it.
Yeah,
it's
That's what I'm saying.
different. It's
He
live.
did not at all like
Olaf.
I love that he's a puppet, though. I think it's so smart.
Well, I mean, he reminds me of Iago from Aladdin. like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
his puppet-
Oh, I miss
But
Aladdin.
it's fantastic because the puppet has its own personality, but then the
The
actor
actor is
the
doing
actor
stuff
is
too.
just as good.
Yeah.
His face is so involved. Oh, it's just
It's
brilliant.
awesome.
I think the only reason I miss Aladdin so much it was because we only saw it together like once. in
Did we?
Aladdin's
I don't
movie.
think we did see it together. Did we?
No? You think Frozen was already out?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh well, I miss Aladdin.
Let it go. Let it go. We should make a screen.
Oh wait, what's its Frozen?
No.
I was about to say what's its Frozen rating. That doesn't make sense. What's
What's
its
its
Rotten
Frozen
Tomato
rating? Oh no.
Is it certified frozen fresh?
It is.
Frozen fresh.
I don't know how fresh it can be if
Frozen
it's
is
frozen.
not fresh.
When you get frozen vegetables, they are fresh,
That's true.
dried at the peak of freshness.
Very interesting. Well, in that case, it is certified frozen fresh. This movie has a 90%.
Oh, why did I think it
Rotten
was higher than
Tomatoes.
that though?
Because little kids go crazy, they go crazy
Yeah.
when they hear
But you
this
know
The-
what? Because Toy Story is like a 98%.
Right. The audience score is only 85%, and I'm
because
wondering.
people started hating on it.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's because of overhype and
Oh,
stuff like
for
that.
sure what it's because of.
You know, when people go crazy over that movie, like we were with you, me and Mary Angela, and we're going nuts, and then somebody goes and sees it and is expecting the best movie they've ever seen, the best Disney movie, the best animated movie or whatever, and then it's a good.
Here, let's
Fairy
read
tale
one.
story.
Let's
Well,
read
hold on,
one
but listen
down.
to this because this is a perfect example. Remember, Luis and I have seen McFarlane USA.
Right.
And then Michelle watched it, and she was like, "Oh my god, it's so good!" And we're all talking your ear off about it.
And
And you
you
watched
didn't
it,
like
and you were
it.
like, "No,
Oh, no,
okay."
I know.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was good.
I liked it,
but
but
I think we overhyped it.
yes, definitely. Like if I had just seen it on a whim without ever hearing anything about it, I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
I think we just overdid it for you, and you were
Sure.
expecting like this spectacular
Oh, I guess-
sports movie.
Yeah, get out of here. Remember the Titans?
I want to read
USA.
just this one
What?
squishy
Bad
squishy
review.
review.
Rotten review.
Rotten review. It says Frozen is glacially stiff. Come on. Glacially stiff, perpetually unamusing animated musical with a talk singing score that will leave one pining for the lifeless soundtrack to The Princess and the Frog.
How dare you insult the Princess and the Frog in
Well-
your bad review for Frozen?
First
Who are you?
This is
Scott
Scott
Marks.
Marks from the San Diego Reader. He gave it a 0 out of 5.
Wow. Okay.
You're doing a lot, dude.
Just so you know, people didn't like Frozen.
He's doing the most.
You're were doing the
Anyways, we could talk about money, but this movie's still making money.
Oh, can I say something about that?
Yeah.
And I think I said something about this before, but my mom is a manager for the company she works at, and the company brought in Disney professionals to talk about managerial styles.
Oh, interesting.
Which is super fun.
Yeah.
Oh, at her the conference in the Anaheim area?
It actually wasn't there, but long story short, she said it was the coolest thing that she's ever done. And they used Frozen as an example when they were talking about not being able to project things as easily as you think you can.
Sure.
Because the business my mom is in is very projection based. Like you have to be able to see the future and attune to it before it gets here, or you're behind like nobody's
Yeah,
business.
so they didn't know it was going to get that high.
Yes, so they were saying how they went into Frozen thinking Tangled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right, yeah.
They were going in and with like Princess and the Frog too. Was
Mhm.
before
Yeah, they were good, and they weren't this way.
yeah, so they were thinking like, cool, it's gonna be great. We do have a big cast, so it's gonna be big, but it's gonna be normal big.
Right. We'll make our money back and
we'll be happy.
do more new projects.
So they get in and
fan.
it meaning the world
Mhm.
loses its mind, and Disney is scrambling apparently.
Right.
To get merch out.
And they're like, what in the freaking world? And so that's why we as consumers see late, it felt like to me,
Right.
we see it coming to the parks.
Yes.
We see it coming to taking over
There's
the land.
so much more merch.
It's everywhere, and it felt like it was continual.
They're putting
They're literally
Frozen
going-
shorts in front of Pixar
And
movies.
they're literally going to put a Frozen land in Hong Kong Disney. Just
And
so you
that's-
know.
And that's part of it, is that they said that they could not keep up with the hype.
Right.
And that people were asking and wanting and complaining because they didn't have what they wanted.
They have enough.
And so, Disney's a business. Disney's going to give you what you want. But as consumers, like, of our age and our status, we're like, whoa, there's too much. Like, now you're overdoing it.
Well, because you could walk into a store at Disneyland and the only things I could buy was Frozen.
Exactly.
And I was like, no, I already have an Olaf shirt. I'm good. I don't need anything else. For me.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But
But
it
they
was
have to have it in
still,
stock
they were trying to
people
meet
are
the
going
need.
I'm not gonna lie though, those plush dolls that you could flip upside down were kind of cool. They were freaky, but they were cool.
Yeah. Get past the Siamese twin idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How am I gonna play both these princesses together?
So,
if they were one
I mean,
doll?
that makes a lot of sense because I think about it even now. Like, it took a while for the ride to get at Disney World, but there's no more perfect place to put it than there. So in Epcot, there is Norway, like in the the different countries, the World Showcase.
Right.
Norway is one of the countries, and they had a Nordic water. Think Small World. You're on a little boat and you're going through a ride.
There is there an Anna and Elsa in It's a Small World now at that point? At this
No.
point? I don't think
No,
there is,
there's
right? Okay. Which is interesting.
There's not. So, because there's not really a Norway.
There is. There's like at least an icy.
That Penguins area, that's Mexico. It's
No,
supposed to be like Arctic.
I'm not thinking of penguins. I remember a place where there's like reindeer and hills.
Oh,
Maybe-
it's because it's so tiny up there.
Gotcha.
There's not much.
Okay.
So they took that Norway ride out and had like trolls and Vikings. I think it was called like Viking something.
Sure.
And then they made it into
Frozen.
the Frozen ride, which is brilliant and perfect. And the animatronics in it are supposed to be like top notch, amazing,
Right.
and I'm sure they
Since it's
are.
so
So definitely we'll want to ride that one day.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and give your rating, or how much
Well,
money has it? Actually?
Yes. So this movie had a production budget of $150 million.
So less than Big Hero 6.
Yes, less than Big Hero 6. Cheaper to make, which is interesting. I wonder if that has
But I'm
something
sure they
to do
had to pay big bucks
the
for
cast.
Idina.
Yeah, it depends because she's a huge Broadway star, but in terms of films, she's definitely not as big.
Yeah.
So maybe her film price wasn't quite as much. I even wonder if her and Kristen Bell's salaries were around the same, even though Idina
Possibly.
is the more popular singer or whatnot. So it had a $150 million budget. It ended up grossing domestically $400 million,
Wow.
which is almost as much as Big Hero 6 grossed worldwide. And it had a foreign take-in of $875 million.
Oh.
So it currently has a $1.2 billion worldwide gross.
$1.2 billion worldwide gross.
Yes, which
that's a lot to take
almost
in.
1.3 billion.
That makes sense.
Hold on, you trying to say that this made over twice as much as
That's Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6?
Yes, correct.
Over time, yes.
I mean,
And it's still making money. It
Yes.
is stuck.
and
No, it's
the
never
interesting,
stop.
the very interesting thing is that there's a sequel to this movie coming out next winter, right?
Yeah,
Frozen
20
2
you didn't
is
know
coming
that?
out 2019,
2019 is the sequel.
and
I'm
I
scared.
I
Scared
personally
for my life.
I love this movie.
I don't need it.
I don't have high expectations for Frozen 2.
No,
I
I don't
need
either.
number 2.
I don't even know what it's gonna be about.
You
They
know?
better blow my freaking mind, is what they better
I'd
do.
much rather have Big Hero 6 or Big Hero 7 than
Or
Then
name
Frozen
it
2.
Big Hero 5 and one of them dies.
Oh, no.
Just kidding.
No, Honey
Oh,
Lemon.
Why was it?
I don't
know.
know.
He was sorry.
Honey Lemon, no, wasabi. So, but in
Yeah,
terms
I'm
of
not-
in terms of thinking about projections, I assume that they're projecting it to make very close to $1 billion. You know, they're
But the
projecting it to
thing
make
is,
a
even
lot.
if it's terrible, it will.
It will make a lot of money because
Because kids are gonna go
those
see it.
kids are gonna go see it, even though it's
I'm gonna go
5
see
years
it.
later,
I'm gonna see it.
and those 5-year-olds that saw it are now 10. But you know, it's going to make a lot of money. But if its quality is any less than the first one,
And this is where we are going to talk about this on Crack in the Vault. That Disney is making choices with Frozen. Like you said, maybe this hype came late in the game, so they didn't decide to make a sequel probably 2 years after this happened, and then they made one. But they didn't know that that hype was gonna turn into, you know what I
right?
mean?
Yeah.
So they had started making that short that they put in front of Coco. They started doing all the stuff that was going to come at a later date, and it didn't sit well. So it's going to be very interesting to see, number one, how well is this sequel going to be written and how well is it going to be, but then also how is the audience going to react to it.
Yeah.
On our Crack in the Vault, which you guys should subscribe so you can
Patreon.com/Lala.
get in, we're going to watch the 21-minute Olaf's Frozen Adventure short that was placed at the beginning of Coco, and we're going to take our mind out of it because we don't got to watch it with Coco. So we're just going to watch it and see what we actually think about it and discuss it.
Yeah. We'll check it out.
Okay, ratings.
Let's do some ratings.
Oh, that's hard.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
9.
9.
It was by itself. Take your emotions about the hype
Right.
out of it. Very good movie.
Mhm.
There's a couple things I'm not huge on.
Sure.
Trolls, they're not like awful, but
Right.
And again, either take the cultural stuff out or better embed it. And the music was good. The
Yeah.
music was very good.
Very good.
But it was, we went between very gorgeous choral music to like Broadway to like, she's a bit of a fixer-upper,
Yeah.
he's a fixer-upper. Very different styles.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Could have been a little bit better blended to me.
I was thinking
Good
if we were gonna do this versus like my initial reaction, seeing this movie in the theater, I was absolutely blown away. I probably would have said 10, honestly, because
Yeah.
that's freaking insane. But I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna say 9. It has successfully stayed the same over time as I've watched it.
Yes.
I still like it. I will still watch it. I'm semi-looking forward to the sequel because I'm just interested to see what's going to happen. Not that I'm like, oh my god, a sequel. I'm interested to see what honestly people are going to say about it. So it's great. It's wonderful. The music is amazing. I love Elsa a lot. Like, I get excited when I see her, so I'm going to give it a 9 as well.
I'm not excited for the sequel.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see
I'm not
people
excited.
hate on it. I'm
Okay.
sorry. That's really mean of me.
No, that's different than being excited just to watch the sequel.
But
Right.
guess what? Maybe I think I'm gonna hate and I'm gonna watch it and be like, dang it, they got me. So who knows? I hope they
Yeah.
surprise me.
I
Has
mean-
Disney done a sequel?
Wreck-It
they've
Ralph.
done sequels for sure.
Like a Ralph,
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph just did a sequel.
Tarzan 2.
No,
Like-
I mean this.
like
but this is
theatrical
theatrical
sequels.
release.
Wreck-It
Ralph.
Ralph.
There has to be some that we're just not thinking of. I mean, there's the Pixar ones like Toy Story 2 and Toy Story
Yeah,
3.
but
No, that's
Disney's
Disney.
Let me go back.
Because traditionally Disney sequels
James the
are.
Frog.
But I feel like Tarzan 2 did come out in the theater.
No, it definitely didn't. No, it did not.
I could be wrong.
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
Anyways,
we might
Andre
be wrong.
rating.
Sorry.
I'm going. I'm
First impression, Andre. No, actually, it's not a first impression.
yeah. See, like once again, just like Michelle
Andre's
said,
first impression was 11.
based off of my first impression, I think I might have given it a 10 too. It was so good that first time I saw it, and it extremely good this time. I saw it as well. So I think I'm gonna give it a 9.5. It's fantastic. It's a great movie. It has a good story. Has good messages. Has fantastic songs. And Olaf is like the standout character of the decade or whatever. You know,
And animation is gorgeous.
and
We
it
didn't
looks
talk
it looks
about
beautiful.
how gorgeous
Yeah,
it
the
is.
whole thing. All of the ice power stuff looks amazing. It looks awesome. But just the outside stuff,
It's so hard to
the
separate.
the hype and the overbearingness of Let It Go and all of that stuff, that I think that honestly is what brings it down for me. You know, there's nothing truly wrong with the movie itself that I don't like, but me, when I think about the movie, it's been tarnished, you know. So that brings it down to a 9.5, which is still a fantastic score. So
The Jungle Book 2 was a theatrical sequel.
yeah.
Bambi 2 was a theatrical release.
Really? Bambi 2. Okay.
Which
I can't
came
remember, like,
out in 2006?
Guess we gotta watch it.
What the heck are you doing?
I ain't watching no Bambi. I'm watching no Bambi too.
All the Toy Stories and the
Yeah.
Cars and stuff.
Yeah, Pixar
But
does
that's
sequels.
about it. But the Rescuers did have
Rescuers
multiple
Down Under.
movies theatrical release.
Sure.
So not very many, no.
Okay, I have to tell one last story. I know that we're wrapping it up, but 2 days ago, 4 days ago, I watched this movie, and I was like, yeah. 2 days ago, I went to this event where it was called an Elegant Evening. It was like a Christmassy thing, and it was one of our friends was singing. Oh, and she had her phone plugged into the loudspeaker, and she was singing. You know, she had the instrumental version, so she was singing, and she was doing a gorgeous job.
Let It Go.
She's singing just Christmas music.
Bunch of stuff.
And then she's like, all right, you guys watch the kids go cray.
What?
You hear it, right? You hear
And then you hear little girls screaming.
You guys, it was like they crept out of like the floor. They're
Isn't it insane when that
slithering
happens?
out of like the trees behind
And I'm
me.
telling you, that's the,
now.
isn't that insane that that happens?
It's
Because
like
that's
they
the
slither.
feeling. That's the feeling I had when I watched the Christmas version of World of Color. I was like, what's happening? What's happening? Like all of a sudden, all the sleeping children in their strollers like woke up and they were like, let it go. I was like, what's happening?
And it's so funny because all of these kids surround her, right? Only a Christmas like adult event.
Sure.
Like people have brought their kids. I'm holding Addie in my arm, and these kids are like surrounding her, and one of the girls like trying to sing into the mic with her. She's like 10, right? But then my friend's 3-year-old, okay? She sits on a chair next to her, and when people are looking at her, she won't sing. But then when she doesn't think people are singing, she'll be like, let it go, let it go. And you could see her like getting Elsa-fied. Like, she's getting all into it, and I would look over at her, and I'm like talking to her mom. I'm like, Eileen, look at Emma, and she's like, and she stops.
Oh.
And then we look
She's
away,
got
and
the
she
shy.
starts singing again. And it was the cutest thing I think I've ever seen. It was so funny.
We have
Because kids are just
kids are the
zero
best.
shame.
Right.
I work with children, if y'all didn't know that are listening. I work with children. So we have like a burned CD that one of my coworkers made that has a bunch of like children's songs on it and has like Disney, a mixture of like Disney songs and like trolls and things like that. So I know from memory that track number 9 is Let It Go because the kids will ask me, they're like, Frozen, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And there's one girl specifically who literally can act out the entire song from every foot stomp, every like move of the hands, like on cue. She does the foot stomp, she'll walk, she does all of it, but you can't look at her like fully, right? So I'll put it on and then I'll just kind of stand in the corner and I'm dying on the inside and she'll scream it. Like screaming at the top of her lungs, and I just think it's the cutest thing ever, even though that song is overrated. But I can't wait until I have a kid to see what. Like, imagine when Addie's older.
Addie's
and
really
we really,
going. She was like,
we like really show her this movie when she can like start singing. She's gonna lose her mind.
Her favorite was the sandwiches song.
Sandwiches.
Yeah.
It is cute though.
Yeah.
No, adorable.
Was an open
Well,
door.
good job, Frozen.
Yeah, good, Frozen. Good on you. It won 2 Oscars, by the way. It won Best Animated Film of the Year, and it won Best Song for Let It Go. Let it go.
In a couple weeks, it's nearing my birthday. Ew, I'm turning 26.
Ew.
All right.
Right?
That's how old.
Sometimes I forget how old I am.
Oh, I forget all the time.
Yeah, so I'm turning 26, so I'm gonna pick.
Girl, we turning old.
Yeah, we
I'm
turning
gonna
28.
pick the next movie.
She
Is
just
that fine?
decided
Yeah.
she's
Can I
old.
pick tonight too?
Go ahead.
Cool. I've wanted to watch this movie for a really, really long time. We don't have that many Pixar movies left, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna watch Wall-E.
Wally?
Wall-E. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of excited
Cool.
because
I made Andre
I
keeps thinking
remember,
we
I
already
don't
did this
remember.
movie because I made him watch it, and he's looking at me like, didn't we do that already?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
because
That
we
we
all
do
watch
this,
it,
but
me and
we
Louise made a
watched.
pact that we wouldn't watch any Disney movies unless it was the Disney movie of the week because
Uh-huh.
that happens.
Right.
Where it's like, I already watched it.
We definitely
Because I
did
got
that already,
confused,
right?
but I told him we needed to watch it because I was like, you need to watch it, you need to watch it. I think you'd only seen it once, and that's like my favorite
I've
Pixar
only seen
movie.
it
I think I had seen it once
Oh,
or
and it's
twice.
my favorite
And
Pixar movie.
it's
so
great.
Very excited.
Yeah, Wally's good stuff.
We're gonna have lots to talk about. Yay, Wally!
Yes. So Wally will be in.
Michelle's gonna have more to say than she did about her hatred of that Frozen craze.
Sorry, I got a little.
I have never seen you
there.
get so pumped up. The coffee kicked in at that point.
I did.
It was
Yes.
hilarious.
So Wally will be in just a couple weeks. You can get it on January.
July.
July.
Long wait for Wally. No,
January 7th.
January 7th is when the Wally episode will be out. So look out for that.
July.
In the meantime, you can keep up with us in a variety of ways. First of all, if you want some extra content, you can go to patreon.com/thewaltball, where we'll be talking about
Olaf's Frozen Adventure.
Fun stuff there. Sign up for as little as $1 or more. You can also keep up with us on social media. We are at the Walt Ball Pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Follow us there. Hit that like button. Like all our posts. Comment on the post.
Like all our posts.
Comment on the post for this episode saying what you thought about the movie and what you thought about the hype and all of that stuff. Let us know if you rate this movie
Let
at
us
9.5.
know.
Let
us
us
know.
know. Send an email to his inbox.
Hit me at contact@thewaltballpod.com.
Contact@thewaltballpod.com.
And we'll read your message on the phone.
We will read your message on the show.
Andre's like, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna murder you.
There's a lot of singing happening at the moment, and
He's sleepy.
I'm a little sleepy.
You know, there wasn't as much shaking as when you trapped me in that car listening to Let It Go.
Here,
you know,
I'll
that
do
was-
one of those big Hero 6 moves where I can do this energy thing, and then it goes, and you fall asleep.
Wasabi.
Wasabi's little is 99 nice.
You literally, yeah, nice. I need to get one of those from.
Dude, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
You got really.
You guys are annoying. Shut you up. So you wanna force you.
No, no,
I just use them on myself.
You just don't want to fight at that moment.
Nice.
Use it on Madeline.
Yes, send us an email.
Oh, this child.
Do all the stuff.
No, to actually get her to fall asleep at night. Not because you're annoyed with her.
Subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to right now. We are on
Husband abuse.
YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, all of the podcast places. If there's a place that we should be on and we're not on, just
Tell us.
let me know. Send an email. Contact waltballpod.com.
Fine.
And I'll add it on there because sometimes I forget. I'm not hip with all the new kid stuff that you guys got going on. So yeah, do all those things. That's it for this week. We appreciate you guys listening to us. We'll be back next time
Happy
with
New Year.
some Wally goodness. Have a happy 2019. The vault is now closed.